Hi and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing a topic that I have been asked quite frequently to do, and I am interested in for the relational perspective of society and how evolutionary psychology and astrological aspects pertain to our relationships on an intimate level and a cultural level abroad. This exploration of love and relationships will delve into the intricate interplay of astrology and evolutionary psychology, essentially shedding light on how individuals navigate unconventional dynamics and embrace their true selves in matters of the heart. Societally, I see a lot of infidelity and I see a lot of secrecy surrounding relationships. So, this video is essentially to help people understand themselves on a more holistic value and be able to show up for themselves and their relationships in an authentic light, whereby they feel safe in their own ability to maintain their own autonomy, whilst also fostering those deep emotional connections that we find in our relationships, whereby there is truth throughout all of our relationships, whether they be, again, societal and social, or also intimate as well. So essentially, the two key players that are going to be involved in the natal chart here is Venus, which is the planet of love and pleasure and harmony, and Uranus, which is the planet of innovation, independence, and sudden changes and rebellion. Uranus travels on its own orbit, so it is quite the rebellious planet. It encourages freedom and individuality, whereby it challenges against social norms and brings about new expectations for society as a whole. Whereas Venus is more about the pleasures in life, the commitment, the stability, the loyalty, and the intimacy. So people that have heavy Uranus in their chart or Uranus in their chart tend towards those more rebellious, humanitarian based efforts, and those who are more Venusian will connect more on that emotional level and that tangible level, pertaining to exclusivity and monogamy. So there is a lot of interplay between monogamy and polyamory with these planets and their alignments, and also the discussions of today. And there will be the bringing up of infidelity as well, and shedding light on how individuals can again navigate those unconventional dynamics of their natal chart and embrace their true selves within their relationships. So I'm just going to jump straight into the first aspect, and that is Uranus opposing Venus. Now, an opposition occurs at 180 degrees, and for example, if someone has Venus in Aquarius and Uranus in Leo, that would form an opposition of 180 degrees. Now, if there is about a 5-degree orb, that is also relative. So, say if someone has Venus, like me, I have Venus at 14 degrees of Aries in my 11th house, and then someone may have, I don't have this aspect, but Uranus at say 21 degrees of Libra. That would also pertain to an opposition. So there is a 5-degree orb either side of the 180 degree aspect, and then the other aspect at play here as well that we will be looking into is Venus square Uranus. Now this is an aspect I do have. I have Venus in Aries in the 11th house squaring Uranus in Capricorn with a 5-degree orb, in the 8th house. So people with these two aspects, the square is a 90-degree aspect as mentioned, and then the 180-degree aspect being the opposition. So these aspects often manifest as a constant push and pull between stability and freedom in relationships. They do want to find stability. They do want that kind of Venusian stability. However, that Uranus energy does come in and mess things up a lot. So there is what the underplay here is, in psychology specifically, is the attachment style. So the attachment styles formulated during childhood are definitely pertain to our relationships. So in that respect, sorry, my dog is barking, but in that respect, the relationship with either one or both of parents, the love nature was cut off, and therefore they're consistently seeking out that love throughout their relationship. And then when they do find a new relationship or partnership as they get older, the moment it gets close to love, they tend to pull away. So that push-pull aspect does occur between the need for stability and also freedom in their relationships, as mentioned. So there is a suddenness to this energy with regards to Uranus being here. There is a strong, unpredictable nature leading to challenges within maintaining long-term partnerships. Now, I can speak to this very, very truly. So, Daniel and I, we've been together for almost 10 years now, and I have evolved quite dramatically, and I do have those rebellious tendencies whereby, as opposed to seeking love or external validation outside of our relationship, I tend to come in and I'll go on a whim where I'm into astrology, and then another whim where I'm into something. So my way of managing that rebellious nature is in education and the way that I go about learning or delving into new practices and things like that. And that does pertain to where it is in the birth chart. So like I said, mine's in the 8th chart, which is death and rebirth and transformation, and also community and humanitarian projects. So that is very much involved in how it plays out in my life. However, if I wasn't self-aware, then I would be more towards experiencing something external to my relationship, which would create very big problems. So another thing that occurs here is that you find yourself attracted to people who embody qualities that you either lack or you desire. So there is need to seek out excitement and novelty in love, and there's many ways that you can create excitement and novelty in love and in your relationship and in the bedroom and things like that. So that's not a problem. But with relevance to seeking out that partner, there could be, for in my example, there's a very large age disparity between me and my partner. There's 16 years between us, so that does play out in this aspect for me. For other people, that might be a traditional white collar worker falling in love with a gypsy. Or another way it could play out would be coming back into that spiritual realm, someone who is Catholic of nature falling in love with a man who is highly spiritual or a yogi or things like that. So there is that need to attract something that is kind of the forbidden fruit of some level. But again, this does bring up the tension between independence and intimacy, creating a sense of restlessness. And if that dissatisfaction does go too far, that is where infidelity does arise. So as long as you're conscious of that and you can create new ways of bringing in that dynamic of excitement and novelty and something that creates an unpredictable nature to your relationship, therefore you'll be able to fulfill that need for autonomy, that need for exploration of new things, and embrace that value of connection and authenticity within yourself. So that is the key here between Uranus and Venus square and also the opposition. Now, another key player in the role of unconventional relationships. This is an aspect I don't have, but it is an aspect of someone a few people that I do know have, and they have slipped up with regards to infidelity in their relationships quite a few times, and that is characterized by seeking that need for independence and innovation. So if someone did come to me and have this in their natal chart, I would implore them to continue to live separately to their partner and maintain that spark and that curiosity within their relationships. Also not living within each other's pockets and things like that, because that creates the even as a Venus square Uranus person, the thought of being coddled and codependently involved with someone makes my skin crawl. So that does create that even more so on a higher spectrum for someone with Uranus in the 7th house. So Uranus is this planet here sitting in the 7th house of relationships. It can come anywhere from this cusp to the following cusp, and that describes your need to express your individuality and pursue your own path. So the 7th house is your partnerships and your relationships, and then Uranus here implores you to be eccentric, individualistic, and rebellious in some ways, and therefore that rebellious can lead to hurting another person emotionally, which is obviously something that no one wants or means to do. So as long as you can either maintain honesty and be able to talk to your partner about unconventional forms of commitment, whereby you lead down the path of polyamory, or even go down to these types of people also tend towards elopement. They will be the type that will fly over to Vegas, get married in Vegas, and come back and say that they're married. They're the types of people that would remain in separate houses for the duration of their partnership, or remain in separate bedrooms for the duration of their partnership, coming together occasionally. So that pertains to those types of relationships. Individuals that can choose these unconventional forms of a commitment will be able to foster those deep emotional connections whilst also maintaining their autonomy, which is essentially what they need to be able to satisfy that relationship with the other, and therefore, as all relationships are mirrors, the relationship with their self. So they also gravitate towards relationships with significant age disparities as well, significant intellectual disparity, so they can be highly intelligent while their partner could be an Instagram influencer who has no idea. I don't know, but there could be very large differences in intellect here, because Uranus reigns over the higher order of intellect, whereas Gemini and Mercury reign over the more simpler forms of intellect. So individuals with a lot of strong influences of Uranus in their chart can be more drawn to polyamory, for they reject the possessiveness and embrace the abundance of love, and they want to find deep emotional connections with multiple partners or with people in general. So Sex at Dawn explores this. It's an incredible book from a evolutionary psychology and anthropology level, whereby I find all things very interesting that delve into different ways of thinking about situations. So essentially, Christopher Ryan's book implores that drawing on the evolutionary psychology background, the notion of monogamy as a natural human trait is not actually legitimate, and that goes deeper into alpha males and planting the seed out and creating what we know as human evolution, pair bonding, and yeah, it's an incredible book. It talks about communal child rearing, hunter-gatherer groups, multiple sexual partners, and then obviously talking about those beta males and alpha males and how they provide, and there's also how the females interact with one another in those tribal areas as well. So it is a very interesting book on a psychological level, and also for those who are interested in looking at why we mate, why we stray, and what it means for our relationships as well. Now, another thing I haven't thought to talk about, but I also want to implore, so if you are in a relationship whereby you are struggling to be honest, so currently Uranus is I think it's on my sun, so I think it's at 23 degrees Taurus, on my rising, 23 degrees Taurus. But Uranus transits to natal Venus brings sudden challenges and disruptions in relationships. So if you're not in the right relationship, Uranus is going to come and knock you out of it. It did for me when it hit my Venus at 14 degrees of Aries about 10 years ago. And basically, these transits prompt the self-examination and growth, encouraging people to break free from restrictive patterns and embrace new possibilities in love and relationships that ultimately lead to personal transformation and then align people with their true desires. And that's where age disparities do come into play, as well as unconventional relationships, as aforementioned. So essentially, overall, the the interplay of psychology and astrology is very fundamental, and it is what I want to base my work around once I finish my degree. But in the words of a very true and dear friend who has left their physical form, truth does beget truth, and free will does prevail. So embrace the beauty of your authenticity in all your relationships. So for me, I am monogamous in my relationship. However, I do understand and believe that no single relationship holds the key to my happiness. So, intimacy and physically, I am with Daniel. However, I do explore friendships with both men and women that do fill up that need to understand things about the meaning of life and psychology and astrology and all of those different facets that Daniel is not familiar with and is not interested in exploring, which is perfectly okay. And I do not expect him to want everything from me, because there's no way that one person can give another everything. That's not what human nature is about. That's not what connection's about. So I do believe in monogamy. However, I do believe that relationships take different forms, and as long as you're truthful with the person you're with, just as I am with Daniel, about who I'm encountering and talking to and things like that, and learning from others and recognizing that wisdom and humility and living and loving yourself as who you are, and being able to explore relationships with men and women across the board on a completely platonic level, whereby you're just being human in the world, learning just as you would off of your parent, your sibling, your cousin, or anyone. So that's for me how I navigate this Venus Uranus aspect. For other people, it may be polyamory. For other people, it may be living in separate houses. For other people, it may be other ways of doing things. But I do implore you to avoid, on all levels, lying and deceiving yourself and others and people that you truly do love, and ensuring that you do maintain fidelity throughout your relationship, and that your practices of fidelity do shine through and you do honor your word within your relationship, because that is, at the end of the day, the foundation of humanity. It's how we've grown, it's how we've evolved. We've all had relationships, and as long as we're honest, I don't think that there's any problem with any way that people choose to live their lives. So I hope this offers some freedom and some insight to help you express your individuality and pursue your own unique path, whilst embracing those unconventional love natures of Venus square Uranus, Venus opposing Uranus in the natal chart, and then of course more significantly for those who have Uranus in the 7th house or Uranus in Aquarius. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope this does help one person find and speak their own truth. And in the words of Pete Stone, truth does beget truth.